quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's where we all begin. Welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters.
A coronet is a small crown worn by a ruler, especially during a coronation ceremony. A cornet is a small instrument, not unlike a trumpet. A cornet is a tasty, salty snack that'll crack your teeth apart. They are not too confused. Okay? But if we were to toot our own horns, we'd say the Smith Corona Coronet might just be the best overall electric typewriter, taking the crown from the Smith Corona 5TE. Will you agree, or are we just corn nuts? Let's find out.
Howdy folks, and welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters. What you see in front of you is a typewriter with a tail. That's right, we are looking at a Smith Corona Coronet, which was one of the early electric typewriters. It's amazing and remarkable how much progress and advancement there were in the electric typewriter world so quickly. The first Smith Corona electric typewriter was the immortal, if you will, 5TE, the Smith Corona Electric, and it ran from about 57 to about 61. So there was a slight overlap with this machine, which was a 1961 Coronet. In fact, the serial number of this one is in the 127,000 range, and based on the typewriter database, that puts it, again, about 1961. But it's the oldest, it will certainly be the oldest typewriter in the Coronet line that's listed on the database. So that's why I went ahead and decided to make a video on this machine to give you an overview. So it's in, first of all, it's in the Galaxy body style. So you have the sliding ribbon cover and the traditional Galaxy accoutrement, namely the plastic carriage release levers, plastic platen knobs, casing of course, white sliders for your margins. It has the same paper bail with these sort of interesting little rollers inside, which are just glued adhesively. That is not redundant, they're just glued in and they roll here, as opposed to a larger paper bail rollers, which you saw on the 5TE line. The other equipment is the same. We've got a ruler, we've got a ribbon vibrator, we've got our release for freewheeling, line selector 1, 2, and 3 is on the left, of course your carriage return. And that brings up another thing. Later on, they replaced the carriage return here with an automatic carriage return button, which of course would go right about here in the later Smith Coronas, and they ran alongside one another. But for me, having an electric which retains the manual carriage return arm really is kind of the sweet spot. Now, part of that is because I find that the Smith Coronas with the electric carriage return are generally a little bit violent. They'll really slam that carriage all the way across, which is fine, and apparently there is an adjustment for that, but I have yet to learn how to make an adjustment that will tone those down a little bit so they kind of scare the dog, and lazy dogs don't like to get scared. Anyway, back to the overall feature. So we're looking at essentially a Galaxy. So we have two space bars, right? Well, the upper space bar is, of course, our tab with a set and clear on either side. The MR is a margin release. The wheel on the right here is your power, which I'll turn on in just a second. And then you have your ribbon color selector, red, stencil, and black. You have a manual ribbon reverse here. I've seen some folks say that these don't have an automatic reverse. That's why they have this down here. That is incorrect. They have an automatic ribbon reverse, but if it fails to trip, where these guys will come over, just as always, and trip your ribbon reverse, then you can manually do it. Or if you wanted to reverse it at a certain point, you can do so. This copy set wheel regulates the force with which the type slugs slam into the platen. If you're going to do 10 copies, or really probably more likely 4 or 5 carbon copies, you'd put it up to your 10 level. But we don't need that because our platens are all hard, so we leave that set at number 1. If you're interested in regulating the touch, they have put that, as always, and I'll try to do it without dropping the typewriter, down here. There's another little wheel, which I think most people who own these things don't realize. It's right here, and there's a little peg 1, 2, 3, and 4, which shows you where your touch selector is. I like to keep it pretty light. That's what we use electrics for, after all, is a light, fast, easy touch. So I leave that there. And just another flyby on the left-hand side, this is where all the magic happens. So these are your ribbon drives, not ribbon drive spools, your motor drive spools here, pulleys if you will. So you've got 2 belts, and these belts are in actually pretty good shape, especially considering they're, what, 60 years old today? I'm guessing these were replaced at some point, because see that little spray paint there? That indicates what kind of belt it is, I think, when you had to pull it off the shelf. But these are little V belts. They're shaped as a V, and they're very strong and robust, and they last a long time, but they can be replaced if you need to, and sometimes they just don't have enough energy left in them to work, but we have a replacement for these, unlike a lot of other typewriters, electric typewriters, which have proprietary drive spools, which we don't have easy replacements for. We looked at vacuum cleaners, we looked at, you name it, trying to find perfect fitting spools, but typewriters like the brother electrics simply don't have acceptable workarounds right now. So that really makes the Smith Corona electric typewriters very advantageous to have. Now, talking about the front of the machine, the keys, I'm not sure if it comes out quite as well. Here, let's zoom in. Yes, it does. So these keys are really neat. Normally you're expecting to have white keys, but these are not. They haven't faded. These are a very light shade of gray. And I really like them. I like the contrast on this particular typewriter. And I've seen these light gray machine keys on different colored cases as well. It's not just the blue. Speaking of the blue, this is your classic Star Mist blue. And I think it's just inevitable over time. You'll see some very light, what I like to call clouds. There's some clouds in the blue sky, or the Star Mist blue sky. And I think, I don't know what causes that. It could just be randomly because of the paint. You see that a lot of times on the Royal Futura line. Their baby blue has almost always got clouds in it. So I just consider that to be part and parcel of the patina, if you will, of these older machines. All right, so that's kind of an overview of the Coronet. And as we all know, the Coronet itself is a small crown that the British use only for coronations. So I don't know what that means, but that's why they decided to pick it. It's a small crown. It makes sense because it has an 8.5-inch platen. I really like the compact size. Seems like most of the electrics, because they're trying to be fully featured and offer more capability than the manuals, come with a 12-inch carriage. But I really like a nice compact machine, and here we go. We'll go ahead and put some paper in. All your standard features are the same. We have a nice paper guide on the left. Get our paper set up in here. All right. There we go. And you can hear that little hum of the motor. The Royal Apollo motors are absolutely inaudible. The Smith Corona ones are audible, but not disturbing. So, without much further ado, let's get started. Box. Now, I don't know if you've seen a whole lot of my typing samples, and there actually was one little glitch to talk about on that, but man, it is so easy and nice to type on an electric. It has all the thrill and adventure of typing on a manual typewriter, of seeing the type bars come up and make an impact on the paper, but it is so effortless. And if you are a heavy-handed typist like me, who generally uses a total of 2 to 4 fingers when you're typing, it's just an absolute godsend to have an electric typewriter. They're just so comfortable to use, and there's a reason that these sold for a significant premium over their manual typewriter brethren when they were made. So it's just ease of use. Now, they are definitely heavier. Well, going into the cons, they're heavier. A lot of times the platens themselves are a little bit more hard than even the manual of the same era, because they've been struck so many times and so hard. I find that makes them a little bit hard. I have a couple Smith Corona 250 models, which are sort of the Blues Brother, Bluesmobile version of the electrics, because they have souped up motor, they have souped up power paper bale rollers. They've just, everything is on steroids for those, and they tend to strike the platen even harder than anything. So they have the hardest of all platens at this point. and I'm looking forward to having one of those recovered at some point at JJ Short. But in any case, the ease of use for the electric is really nice. Now that is offset by the tethering problem you have, where you are tethered, of course, to your energy source, and there's no escaping that. So those are the main cons of having an electric. One is your ease of use is right there. It's very easy. It's rapid. Another con is that it's heavier. These guys with that electric motor definitely adds a couple pounds to the weight. I don't know how much this weighs, probably close to 20 pounds without its case, which is definitely luggable more than portable. This will eat a colibri for lunch and just keep on going. All right, well that's pretty much a quick and dirty overview of the Smith Corona Coronet. It is essentially the exact same mechanism that they used in their manual machines, with just a very ingenious electric motor added in, driven by 2 belts. Wonderful machine, very quiet, easy to repair, and capable of having its belts replaced if you have one that needs it. And while we're talking about that, how do you know if the belts need to be replaced? Well, if you turn your typewriter on and it sounds like it's making noise, you hear the hum, but you press a key and nothing happens, well, then you know you need new belts, because, well, you could need to clean it, of course, but if the keys don't move at all, there's no motion, that's a dead giveaway that your belts are gone. It's possible that these motors can fail too. That's another threat of having an electric typewriter. It has more moving parts, but there's nothing you can do on that other than replace the motor. One last thing I didn't mention is there's a couple of neat repeating keys on this model. So we have repeating X, and repeating period, and repeating underline dash. And of course, those are awesome fun things that are hard to do on a manual typewriter. So thanks for joining our video. We think the Coronet really takes the crown when it comes to electric typewriters. Have a great day.
Please like, subscribe, and share.